Good afternoon. Are you ready to run? Okay, not right now, but it's good that you're ready. Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Wittenberg, currently the president of EF Education First Pro Cycling, a men's world tour team. Right now, getting ready for opening season in Belgium. But deep inside, I'm a runner through and through and had the great privilege of spending many years at the New York Roadrunners and helping grow all the New York Roadrunner programs, from youth programs to the New York City Marathon, and creating things like the World Marathon Majors. I'm thrilled to be here today because I get to be the moderator of some of the greatest voices, most impactful voices in running today. So please join me in welcoming Alison Desir. I think of Alison as a lifelong friend in New York City and was stunned to realize when we were just talking that it was only 7 years ago that Alison came back into running after being a high school track runner. Alison needed to get started running and wanted to do something for herself. So using social media, she created a whole sense of this group called Harlem Run that was going to be out there getting together on Mondays and Wednesday nights. In reality, it was just her. And it became a big deal. But Alison, why don't you just quickly tell everyone a little bit about yourself? And I think of you first as a fierce advocate for people, all kinds of people, especially women in running, and a real fighter for equality.
Thank you so much. I want to say, this feels like the Grammys to me, so I'm just shout out to everybody at home who's watching. Shout out to my son, to my husband. What up to my mom? All right, I got to say that. But yeah, I was super excited to be here. I came to running 7 years ago after going through a period of depression and seeing a friend of mine who's not your typical marathon runner, black guy, 200 pounds, training for a marathon. I saw him doing this on social media, and I was like, Black people don't run marathons, right? Truth be told, I had never actually seen a marathon. I'd never participated in a marathon. But his journey, it was transforming his life. A year later, I decided the year's going to go by whether I do something for myself or not, and I ran my first marathon. It changed my life. It saved my life. And I started Harlem Run because I wanted to share it with folks in the neighborhood. As Mary said, nobody came for 6 months, but it really started to grow and become this space where people of all abilities, people of color, could come and be vulnerable and also get a run in. And from there, lots has transpired. At this moment, I'm really dedicated to amplifying the voices of women in running, particularly when we talk about women, many times we're talking only about white women. So I'm really here to speak about intersectionality. How do we create more space? Yes, cheers for intersectionality. How do we create more space, and how do we make it so that tomorrow so many amazing athletes are running, but so many more of them look like me, right?
You're here. Thanks, Alison. Next up, Kara Goucher. Again, hard to remember. Hard to remember a point in time when Kara wasn't a star in the sport. She began at a young age, was really good in high school, in the early part of high school, and then went through, like all of us, that stage of puberty where suddenly our phenomenal bodies that are going to carry us through for life start to change, and had to deal for the first time probably in not being the champ and even having her younger sister beat her. Kara worked all the way through that to become a great runner in college in Colorado, and then two-time Olympian. She's finished in the been an Olympian at the 5K, the 10K, the marathon, finished in the Olympic Games 7th, 8th, and 9th in the world. And today, I think her impact is probably greater than even she maybe could have realized in terms of really standing for clean sport and the importance of really helping athletes make good choices all through their careers, and being a great advocate for ensuring systems are around athletes to help them be clean and get a chance to play in a fair playing field. So, Kara, welcome. What do we miss? What do you want to chime in there?
That's pretty good. No, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited about the energy here, and I feel like 2019 was a time where a lot of women found their voice in the sport, whether we were discussing maternity issues or doping or like abuse in sport. I feel like we found our voice, and I just want to keep it going. And seeing this energy and seeing that over 500 women qualified for this, I just feel like we can't let this go and just have it be this one weekend. We have the power to make this happen all year round.
I have chills. We'll come back to it, but that's a really important point. Nobody is alone in this sport, and I think that's an area we can do a better job of making sure people know how to get to other people when they need help in this sport. And this is it's a big, wide open circle where there's plenty of places to go for support and help. Another Kara Finley. We wouldn't be here today without Kara Finley. I'll tell you one thing. This greatest weekend we're ever going to see in Olympic marathon trials history is primarily funded, fully supported, and coming to life with the volunteers and the staff and the partners of the Atlanta Track Club. And Kara is the vice president of the board of the Atlanta Track Club. We'll talk more about it in a bit, but this is an unprecedented level of support, and it has led to thousands of men and women trying to qualify to get here for Saturday and others coming in Sunday. Kara is also a partner at Price Waterhouse. What's the seat? Price Waterhouse. Coopers now. Thank you. And does some work in the risk management area, so she'll be busy. Also a longtime runner, I think 20 years now running. Started in your late 20s. What did we miss? What do you want to chime in?
No, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, and with these amazing women. Yes, America's marathon weekend, and so we have the best of the best here for tomorrow. And then I'm here to represent the average runner on Sunday. So yay for the average runners that are here. And just proud to represent the Atlanta Track Club and Atlanta, which is where I grew up. So.
Oh, amazing. Great. Next, Sally Burgesson. Has more fans than probably many people I know in life, for good reason. Sally was not a lifelong runner. It had this great growing up. You can tell from her design sensibility, she always brings a touch of culture and what's happening in the world to us running peeps. And Sally went after some tough times in college. Running helped her through, and in a quest to find a pair of running shorts that she felt good about wearing and was excited to wear, her designer self came up with a brilliant solution and phenomenal. I think they were Roka short. What was the name of the short? Roka shorts. And that led to this upstart women's apparel brand called Oiselle. That's often, Sally, I think of you when I'm asked what animal would I want to be, and I'd love to be a bird, and you just got the power of running and what it gives to all of us. But I'll never forget seeing you at the Eugene track and field trials, and it's now probably over 10 years ago, and there was like this cult, like, who are all these women in Oiselle, and what is this Oiselle? And you had it happening, and you've kept this buzz going, and now you've gotten so many women out there on the road. So thanks for doing that. And what else do you want to share?
Well, first of all, for my teammates here, who would like to have Mary Wittenberg on the volet?
I'm in. I need to get in running shape.
We got your singlet ready. We're good.
I'm ready.
By the way, my tough times in college, I mean, it was just drinking beer. I mean, that's like, I don't know. I think could be a plus. No, thank you. I wanted to say, first off, a big thanks to Atlanta Track Club, to Rich Kanah specifically, to the entire Atlanta Track Club organization. We can't thank you enough. We've had, Sarah Lesko managing our 24 athletes who are all going to be towing the line tomorrow, which, ladies, I don't know if you're out there, but we're so excited to watch you, the entire community. So, but anyway, Atlanta Track Club, just a huge hand, setup, the organization. So that's been phenomenal.
Wait, you're sponsoring 24 athletes that made it Saturday.
Yes, we have 24 OTQers, women with talent and fight and courage and incredible stories, and we've been posting all about them for the last couple of weeks. But yeah, obviously, that's one thing I think we can all shout out about this entire weekend is the number of women that are in this race. So over 500 women OTQers, and I think the men's field is kind of flat, isn't it, from 16? So I mean, I don't know what's going on, but y'all, the dudes got to get out there and shake a leg. So
Exactly. Need the mademoiselle could come along. Well, that's where I want to start. It's phenomenal where we are today. I qualified for the trials in 1987 for the 1988 trials. And my time at the time was 244 something, and my number was 72. I think today 244 has got to be number 550 or something like that. So that's phenomenal. But what I really think about most when I think about trials is not my short, fleeting moment of being involved in it as an athlete, but my time in it from the leadership of the sports side. 20 years ago, we couldn't even field full teams of men and women because the athletes couldn't hit qualifying times and the support was not there to help them. The athletes were there, they didn't have the support to get there. And here we are, the largest trials ever on this massive stage. 20 years ago, we gathered in the press room, New York Times included, around a TV this big to try to figure out what was happening. Today, it'll be NBC. Tomorrow, it'll be NBC Live. It'll be in this Olympic city of Atlanta, and there'll be thousands of people out there. So I'm curious, ladies, what helped us get here? But most important, you can feel it among us. We're just getting started. There's so much more ahead. What's it going to take to get there? So I want to start with you, Allison. If I can pull it up quickly. We talk about this a lot, but literally I was walking in, quick plug for my friend Allison Wade, who runs a great Women in Running newsletter and Twitter feed, Fast Women. Literally, I'm not so good about Twitter, but the one thing I do every day is see what Allison's saying and retweeting. But there was just a note on here that came from a woman that Natalie Mitchell says, I think a huge problem is little girls of color don't see long distance American women that look like them. So it never comes on their radar that they even want to run a marathon. Hoping we can chip away and make a change. And I think this is a hashtag that says it all. Representation matters. So ladies, Allison, happy to start with you. What's the deal? What do we need to do? Because we know there are all kinds of women in this country of ours that can be and should be on this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking to Representation Matters, I want to thank you, Mary, and you, Sally, because I do believe that you both say my names in rooms where I could never be and where folks might never, ever think that I should be in. So thank you for putting me in these spaces. But I'm such a nerd, and I'm always reading reports. Most recently, there's a report by Women's Sports Foundation, and there's also a report about the state of the outdoors. The Women's Sports Foundation talks about some of the wins that we've had since Title IX and some of the opportunities. I think one of the biggest opportunities is when you look at young girls of color, black girls in middle school are 3 times more likely than their white counterparts to drop out of sport. If you look at some of the obstacles to sport, there's obviously pay to play, right? You got to have the right gear, you got to have the opportunities, and you have to know that there's somebody who's done it before, right? If you see it, you can be it. So I think while the current stats are kind of disappointing, what it means is that there are hundreds of thousands of young black and brown women, girls and boys who have yet to even enter the sport, who have yet to even consider that this could be them. So when you talk about what would 20 years ago look like, imagine 20 years from now, how, if you look around this room, not to call it out, like, there's very few people of color even watching this, right? Imagine 20, I see you, Courtney. And my husband, shout out to my husband. No, but right, imagine what this room could look like. Imagine what tomorrow could look like. So there are real opportunities, but we need to invest in the resources. We need to make sure that these women's stories are being told on the stage. Lindsay Gibbs has this amazing newsletter, Power Plays, where she focuses on women in sport and the lack of coverage. So women in sport get very little coverage to begin with. Then women of color in sport get even a fraction of that 2%, right? So there are a lot of really tangible things that we could do right now if there are journalists in the room. Commit to telling the stories of the women of color who are out there tomorrow, right? So that a young girl, maybe me, right, could have learned what a marathon was far sooner and could have given Kara some competition, maybe.
Love that. Anybody else want to chime in? All right, great.
I think organizations like the Atlanta Track Club, we've made some really good progress in those 20 years since I started running, which was with the Peachtree Road Race. For anyone local, it's the largest 10K in the U.S., 60,000 people. I think right now these trials kind of tie in with that as well, just that camaraderie. And so the Atlanta Track Club, part of our vision is to have an active, healthy Atlanta by motivating, inspiring, engaging in the community. So I think if we can continue to do that, and really part of our board is also focused on the diversity, and that means certainly of color, of location, of economics, of age. And so, what else can we do? We haven't figured it out yet, but we're focused on it, and learning from people like all of you, I think, will be important.
Do we have a mentor program at the professional side? Because what's interesting to me is Atlanta Track Club, New York Roadrunners, a number, Natasha Hastings has a great program. There's a lot of programs getting all kinds of kids moving, and there are many kids of color in the programs at a young age, and they're all pretty focused on grassroots. And I think we're losing. It strikes me that high school age is where we're losing, especially women and sometimes boys of color, as we go to the sports side. And we're lucky to have great athletes like Mariel Hall, who just paced her teammates to records running in Boston last night. But it's a handful of top athletes of color that are super competitive, and that feels like a massive opportunity to me, because that's where TV cameras are, that's where the press is, and I'm just wonder if there's more we can do to get especially girls of color into Foot Locker, into at that high school cross country age, where they stay in and realize how competitive they can be and go run in college and the like. Okay, we'll keep lots. Sally, do you want to?
Well, I was just going to say that that a lot of students, people at that age, it can be the coaches in your life, right? Those adults that are witnessing either potential or talent. And I don't know, we probably all remember some conversation that we had with somebody that believed in us at that age. And so if you're not getting those messages, and it does speak to diversity and representation in the coaching as well, and so it's just all up that chain of the power structure, quite frankly.
Take us there. Lindsay Krause of the New York Times has started a great series on this of coaching and the lack of diversity in coaching in running, and I certainly see it in cycling and in other sports. What do you think needs to happen there? How do we get women started coaching? I think actually the base is probably smaller than we would like, and then how do we help them get great jobs in coaching and in running?
Well, something that I noticed again in this report, and again, I think all of this starts really young, and again, has to do with who you see in these positions. So one thing that is making a really big impact on young girls is gender role beliefs, right? So what do you think a girl should do? What do you think a woman should do? What position should we have? And I think that has a real impact on it. Then if you go throughout your career and you never see a woman coach, and then you look at the NBA, or you look at the NFL, or and these teams are making some improvements, and you don't see women in those spaces too, then that sort of lets you know, that's not a space for me, or it'd be really, really difficult if I'm the only person in that space. And being the only one of the few, there's this theory, minority stress theory, about how much that weighs on you. Every day, showing up, being the only person that looks like you, the only person that thinks like you, the only person that has certain obstacles. So there are very real reasons why people are hesitant to get into those spaces, and when they get there, maybe don't last long.
How many of you coach a youth sport of any type? How many of your husbands coach? Okay, not so many more. Because I do think I look back and they would have died, but I kind of wish I'd coached my sons in basketball when they were really little. When you didn't have, I didn't have to know that much about it. You rarely, in youth sports, we don't see a lot of women, and I think probably just creating more circles of women who get out there and coach even at the youngest ages might make a difference. But I know it's hard in college and high school.
It gets down to allyship a little bit. Men in coaching positions now look for your woman to hand the baton to. Like, seriously, like, look around and think about, my husband's a high school soccer coach, and he was actually really excited to bring up a woman soccer coach to take over for him. So I think that's one idea.
I love it. Sally, let's take us there. I want to talk about our name of our title was Women Are Running.
Women run running.
So, yeah, something like that. So I'm curious, are women really running? I think women are the stars of the show, so are the guys.
Yeah.
But big stars of the show on Saturday, but what's happening on the business side?
Yeah, thanks, Mary. I actually made a list for this because I got kind of fired up when I saw the women run running. I think what we know is that women run running in terms of participation, women run running in terms of, consumer spending, women run running in terms of like being here this weekend and participating and cheering. And so we have a lot of good news to celebrate with women running, but we also have bad news. We need to look at the sport. We need to take an honest look at the sport and see who is running the sport of running from an industry standpoint. So some of you who follow me may have saw that I posted some stats about how there is not a single woman in the CEO, COO, or CFO role at any of the major shoe companies. Now there's an exception to that I want to give a special shout out to Hoka and Saucony, with Wendy Yang and Ann Cavassa, who are both presidents of those companies. And so that's definitely to be applauded. But I think when you look at the industry as a whole, why is it that women are driving more than 50% of the business, the participation, the energy, the growth, and yet we don't have the representation at the top of these businesses? And then it goes beyond that. It goes into the governing bodies. It goes into running store ownership. It goes into race directors. I mean, it just, at every level, we're really not seeing the growth in the sport being driven by women being matched by women in power. And so having said that, I will say that the most exciting thing that I think a lot of us have witnessed over the last 5-10 years is that women are tired of asking for a small piece of the pie. Okay, we're not going to just beg for a chair at the table. We're actually going to build our own fucking table. And so that's honestly like the best way to create change. And you see it, I mean, obviously Oiselle is an example of that, but it's popping up in other places. You mentioned power plays, you mentioned fast women, you mentioned the kick, and then you also see Lindsay Krause. She's got people by the short hairs right now, and that's okay. So I think, there's just, you see this shift happening, and I think it might be more worthwhile to move in that direction. But this is just a simple call out to all the Woman Up energy in this room to think about the power that you have as a participant in the sport to not only follow, patronize, talk about the women who are making a difference in the sport, but also with your spending power and your voices and all of that. Because really, when that happens, that is when we're going to see real change.
You all have worked with phenomenal women. They're phenomenal women in this sport, and I'm so excited about other women's sports, especially basketball and soccer right now, and what's happening there with great women commissioners coming in as early as yesterday in soccer and a couple months ago in basketball with Kathy Engelbert. And they're going to drive, those are women drivers, and we all know women drivers in this sport who are not at the top seat yet. And I think boards are starting to change, which is critical. But each of you have worked really closely with other great women. And Kara, maybe you can speak to this with your work and Clean Sport Collective, working with Shauna, and then your work with Oiselle. What do you see as the power of working with great women on the business side of the sport, and why is it important?
I mean, we get stuff done. I feel like once I started being aware of the fact that I was always surrounded by men, which wasn't always bad, just to be clear, like, I love men. But once I really started to see that and started to really make an effort to, make decisions based on lifting other women, it changed my life. And I would say Sally and Sarah Lesko were like the biggest impetus. Like, that's what made me start thinking about it. And then, of course, I work with my friend Shanna Burnett, who has started the Clean Sport Collective and has done so many tremendous things. And I just think it's amazing what you can do when you all work together and you all say, like, we're going to elevate each other and we're going to help each other and we're going to tell these stories and we're going to do it in a positive way. And I know that I'm still frustrated that there aren't women in sports marketing, and I'm frustrated about a lot of things, but there has been change. And this stuff, it just takes time, and we have made tangible change. And just like Allison was saying, 20 years from now, we're going to be like, we did it. I hope.
For sure. Kara, talk to us, Finley, about boards. So I've been lucky. I sit on a number of boards and or have in the past, and what I've seen like at New York Roadrunners now, it's half women, and what I've seen over time is, to generalize, women don't forget other people. And I feel like somehow the women I've seen in boardrooms and on management teams, it's one person, but it's like all of a sudden you're bringing several voices because there's a awareness of a variety of groups whose voices might be missing. What do you see when you're a partner at PwC and you're on the Atlanta Track Club board? Do you see that, or what do you think? Do you have any advice for women of how do they get in there and how do they make the most when they do have a seat at a table?
Sure. I can say for the Atlanta Track Club board, we are quite diverse. I mean, we do focus on that as well, and making sure diverse in lots of aspects, including different perspectives, etc. Being the vice chair, I will be the chair at some point in the next few years. But corporate America mirrors a lot of what you're talking about here too, and I think what I've seen large companies, even like myself, is that awareness and bringing along folks at all points of their career. And so not just waiting, hey, there's a glass ceiling, and part of it is it's changed in the last 25 years that I've been working, but there are more women and more diversity, but it's making sure that those opportunities are there for the individuals that maybe just don't look like, when you have all men in leadership, they often bring along the people that look and that they relate to just like them. And so I think having a voice for all of us, I love your point as well, having the men bringing along the women as well is very important, having that awareness for both.
Do you think process is important in this way? I remember very early in my career saying at one point in a situation with a board, well, why don't we have a process so we can look at the different kinds of skills we want on the board? And someone said, we'll know them when we see them. And that's how you don't get to a broader set of people in a room. Have you seen process? Does that make a difference? Or how do you get an organization to be more open to more voices?
That's a tough one, but we've seen lots of studies, and often what we do, even in the corporate world, is making sure there are no pictures. And what's interesting is even names, right? If you take the names out, and how do you evaluate a resume compared to maybe it's not John Smith. Who is this person, and much less the picture. So on the process side, I think that can be relevant. I think it's just putting all the facts on the table when I think of when we're looking at a nominating committee, for example, and just really making sure diversity, again, of skills and what type of do they bring to the table as well. So
that makes sense to me. Diversity in every way, diversity of thinking, diversity of style. And guys, you can help along the way. I'm really privileged now to work with a team of 30 professional riders, and they will ask me as often about what we can do to support women in cycling as women do. And so I think that's what's changing too. I certainly hope our sons are going to be the same. So I think both men and women can help in this effort. We only have a few minutes. It's vitally important that we believe what we see on Saturday. Kara, you've led the way with Clean Sport Collective. You've put yourself out there. What I want to know is, in a day and age that is similar to what's been a long history of people are sometimes going to cheat, what do we have to keep doing to really advocate for the importance of doing this right, and for kids to be able to put their head down on the pillow at night and know that they've done it right, even if others haven't?
I think we're getting there. I think we're getting a culture shift where we are celebrating people who will speak out. You're no longer a pariah or cast to the side, and I feel like we're getting there. I can think of 10 women that have a chance of winning tomorrow that have all spoken out so publicly, and I think that's a huge change. I mean, Lily King waved her finger at the Olympics and was lambasted for it. And now we fast forward and now we celebrate her. And so I feel like that's the right way to go. We need to be able to talk about it. We can't just say, oh, we got there and move on. We have to be honest. We have to keep working. People are always going to try to cheat, and we just have to say no louder and louder and louder. And I mean, I think we're going to see a good race on that women's side tomorrow. I feel confident we're going to see a clean race.
I agree. Okay, a fun one. If you could, two things. If there's one thing you could ask everybody to do to support women in sport, this sport or others, I would say buy basketball tickets, soccer tickets, and follow all these runners. And go to. Thank you for coming today and showing that you care, but just gets behind and support women athletes wherever you can. What's the one thing you'd ask people to do? And second, if you could be one athlete, male or female, on Saturday, who do you want to be?
Okay, so for the first one, I would say that, again, I'm going to shout out Lindsay Gibb, demand more coverage of women in the press, right? And she actually has this project right now where she's asking for people to send her clippings and weekly, I don't know how she has time for this, but she is putting together the numbers of women that are covered in what sport and really looking into it so that we have the facts behind it, so that we have the statistics. And I'm like that nerdy type who loves to look at this stuff, but that's really how you can present, like 2% of sports coverage is women. Like,
How do we find her?
Powerplays.net or .com, Lindsay Gibbs, fantastic. So make sure sports coverage. And then in terms of people I want to meet, I really just want to talk to Alafine. She is a NAS elite, and she is like, I mean, she's like on fire. She has such good energy, and she is so excited, and she makes me want to be even more excited about the sport.
And that calm persona of hers, she's going to crush it. Okay, Kara.
I'm going to echo something Sally said earlier, which is you have way more power than you think, and use your purchasing dollars wisely. Think about who signed the Clean Sport Pledge. Think about who's promoting women. Think about who's making safe environments and safe places for women. You have so much more power than you think. And tomorrow, I love everyone. I'm super excited, but if I had to be one person tomorrow, I'd probably just be Des because she's a rock star.
Go Des. Can't go wrong with your teammate.
So I would hit on the word that you mentioned earlier, is transparency and encouraging. We have a lot more power at purchasing, but also just encouraging people to speak up and just being encouraging, and for all ages, back to the kids as well. And so representing the average runner this weekend, I want to jump to Sunday, and on the panel before us with Gail and the Olympic legacy and the fact that she's doing the half marathon on Sunday, I think is just awesome.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'm going to make a shameless plug for the Oiselle Volley. As we got some awesome teammates here, but I want to say that it is more than just about Oiselle. I think there's so many women here who have experienced the joy and the transformation of sport, right? Like, it happened to me early on, but I had to kind of like hunt and peck and find women to run with. So not only do we run together, we dance party together, we go to lunch together, we just do all kinds of things. And one thing that we've learned about the Volley is that it's an incredible professional network as well. We've got some incredible women. We've got scientists, lawyers, doctors, healthcare people, teachers, educators, moms, like the whole breadth. So I think just that ability to communicate and like connect is so at the core of running, and that's always what it's been about. And so I think that's one big thing. Oh, the other thing is, Lesko will get mad if I don't say this, part of the Volley is we donate sports bras to middle school girls in need.
Critical.
So we really know that having a sports bra at that middle school age is super pivotal. You can either step into sport at that point or step away from it, and if you step away from it, it might be for a lifetime. Okay, for
Saturday.
the race tomorrow, I'm going to go with Sally Kipyego because I like her name.
I was going to say Sally, too, because she's coming back. She's got a 2-year-old,
she
and nobody's
is
expecting
awesome.
her, and she
I put her
ran
on my picks. So.
Okay, yeah. She ran fast in Berlin and is on her way on the rise. So look out. It's going to be amazing. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You guys are the best. Keep it going. We're out. Bye.
Thank you, Mary Whitman.
1, 2. Oh, 1,